and blessings, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Royalty with Saran. And as you can see, we have a very interesting topic to discuss today. We're going to be looking at Black love and specifically Black marriage. As you can see, I'm not alone. I have a king and a queen in the house with me today. For those who have seen the previous episodes where the kings were on the panel, you're familiar with Fire. And I know when he said that he's been married for more than half of his life, everybody looking at him like, so the young dude, half of your life, and so he piqued a lot of interest. I actually got two questions about you and about your pretty much asking me, is it for real or is it just, sounding good? And I said, no. What you see is really what you get. And next to him, we have his beautiful wife, Courtney. And I just want to say thank you, Queen, for agreeing to come on the platform today. I invite you. I see you holding up your tea, King. Yes, get comfortable, everybody. Pull out your favorite brew today. If it's hot where you are, grab something good to drink and let's get cracking. So tell us, I want us to go right back from the very beginning. How did you meet? How did you guys meet? Who wants to take that?
You tell it. Okay, so I have the better memory of the two, so I'll take you down memory lane, and then I will jog and trigger her memory. So the first time we met was at Courtney's cousin's graduation party, and that was 1999. And it was just an introduction, like, hey, this is my cousin Courtney. Courtney, this is Rob. That's it. That was it. It wasn't that kind of like a hookup thing. It was just an introduction because we were both attending the same party. As a matter of fact, Courtney was probably 6 months pregnant. 7. You were 6 months pregnant.
Yep.
With Lexi. So that was our first introduction, just to be in each other's consciousness. Now, she was in my consciousness, though she was pregnant. She was just just a beautiful being, and I'm like, oh, your cousin's a beautiful human, and so she again was pregnant in a relationship. So I'm sure after that brief introduction, she forgot who the heck I was. Pretty much.
I see.
And
so what was it? Well, when did you guys reconnect after that?
Yeah.
That's an interesting way to meet somebody. That's interesting. I'm looking forward to hearing this journey.
Yeah, he had to remind me.
Yes, you speak on the reconnection.
He had to remind me that happened. So then we reconnected again at my cousin at the time's boyfriend's graduate. Was it his graduate?
It was a birthday party. Yeah.
And
in the projects, in the basement.
And he came up to me and he introduced himself and he's like, do you remember me at all? We said hello, whatever, and he gave me a hug. And I was like, awkward. Because I wasn't like a super touchy person. So for somebody that I didn't have a relationship with to be like,
I don't know you, dude.
Oh, so nice to meet you, and like a warm embrace. I'm like, awkward, right? And I remember saying to somebody after that, like, what's up with your cousin? Like he's a little touchy. But I did like his energy though. He had really, really positive energy and just was super cool. And then we met again, which I think might have been the first time of, I don't even know if that was, you would call it attraction, but interest, or were we really engaged at Pitt in the dorms?
Oh yeah.
Mutual friend.
That's right. She came to visit me with a mutual friend, and again, now the baby bump is gone. So now there's good reason for me to look at this woman and say that is a beautiful human being.
Right?
Like, dude, what's wrong with you? She's pregnant. That's kind of strange. It wasn't really my thing. But at this meeting, I was a freshman in college, and Courtney was a year behind me, so she was still in high school. And again, I had the same reaction, but it was probably a little stronger. But I just cut it. I just blocked it or whatever. Like, We got our own situations. Like this is just somebody who you find physically attractive. Keep it pushing. I didn't understand vibrational frequencies. I didn't understand energy. I didn't even understand chemistry well enough to articulate it at 18 years old. As such, so we just we hung out.
We became friends after that.
We became friends after
and
that.
I let him borrow a CD, and we were like honestly like
Platonic friends.
What CD was it?
Being somebody. Huh?
What CD was it?
It was Joe.
Huh?
Joe.
R&B.
Oh, okay.
You know Joe, the R&B artist?
Yes, I do.
So it was actually my dad's CD, and I had it in the car, and I let him borrow it. And so it had been some time, and I remember calling him like, "Can I get the CD back?" Like
I think that was our first bond was music.
Yes.
That was the first connection because her dad grew up. She grew up with her dad singing Keith Sweat, like every Keith Sweat. He would clean. You bust the house down on Sundays to Keith Sweat, and my mom would bust the house down to Luther or what have you. So we had very aligned R&B musical palettes, and that was like that first like, oh, what you know about that, youngster? What you know about that?
So we would get in the car and go places, but we had the most awkward friendship in the history of friendship. So I can understand if people thought like they're totally lying.
Yeah,
but
we wasn't. Yeah,
we really weren't lying at the time, but it was super awkward even for us because like he would have to go grocery shopping for his dorm, and I had a car. And I'd be like, well, I'm going grocery shopping for my apartment. And he's like, I need to go to Walmart too, so let's go together. And so we would go to this Walmart all the way in North Purcell. Again, at the time, it was like, why are we going all the way to North Purcell? I think we were hiding, but we didn't know what we were hiding from.
Subconsciously.
And so we would walk around the Walmart and hold hands. Why are we holding hands?
What's happening? What is happening?
And then we get in the car and literally turn the music on and sing every song. I mean, I just remember like the first really 5 years of our relationship consisted of nothing but music.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And singing. When you're young, there's a certain comfortability that you have to have.
Peace.
And everything.
No, I thought I could sing, so I was in the choir, so I thought I could hold a note.
I was holding a note too.
You were.
I still think I hold a note.
You were doing a good job. I was serenading you indirectly as your homie.
That's right.
Your hand holding homie. Yeah.
Exactly.
Your hand holding homie.
Exactly. Very strange. And so we were just friends for a long time, and then eventually, or I guess that wasn't a long time, but what felt like a long time, it was actually just a few months, right?
Yeah, it did feel like a long time. It was like 9.
What? Why did I call? Did I say, do you want to watch movies?
Yes. It was like 12:30 at night, and you was like, "What you doing?" I was I'm like, "It's after midnight." Like
we were already on the phone.
We were on the phone.
Call you.
True. This is clarifying. She didn't try to call me.
Exactly.
She didn't try to booty call me. We had been talking from like 10:30, and 2 hours later, she's like, "So what you doing?" And in my mind, I'm like, "Well, we've been on the phone for the last 2 hours, so you asking me what I'm doing is kind of strange. Like you want me to be in your presence. You know what I'm doing. I'm laying in the bed talking to you." And she's like, "Come watch a movie with me, or come keep me company, or something like that."
I said, "Do you want to watch a movie?" And you were like, "When?" I was like, "Now." Are you going to bed? You were like, "No, all right, here I come." Like, here I come, like he's next door. He was in Oakland. I think I was in Wilkinsburg.
A good 15 minutes.
And he came over, but when he came, you had to be buzzed into my apartment building. So I buzzed him in, and I can't see him. It wasn't like it is today where you have all the modern cameras and stuff. You literally just spoke through the call button. And so he came up to the door. I'm expecting, right, somebody who's fully clothed, maybe in a jacket. Because was it night? Was it cold?
It was chilly.
It was cold, right?
It was chilly.
But no, he shows up in Timberland boots, jogging, sleep pants.
Yeah, jams,
and a white beater with muscles everywhere. I think this was his opportunity to show me, like, I got muscles. And so
wave spinning.
And I'm laughing because my daughter's over here in the corner. She's looking like my 10-year-old. She's like, I'm hearing this story.
Because that wouldn't, it's like now he seems like he wouldn't do something like that.
Yeah,
No.
so he shows up and he's just at the door. I'm like, okay. And so I think that was the first time. That was the first time we kissed. Not at that
We ain't
moment.
kissed that night.
Did we not kiss?
Mm-mm.
I laid on your chest.
Correct.
Ew.
That was our first contact.
We were still buds.
We were fake buds.
We were still buds.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's a long way to say that's kind of how we got together.
Let me explain myself, sis, because that sounds very Irish. It sounds a little, like sort of big ego guy, and I probably was. But what I was trying to ascertain that night was if she wanted me. Like I felt it, and my little cousin had been telling me like, "Man, Court wants you." I'm like, "Nah, that's the homie. Like that's the homie."
I want you.
That's what he said. I was telling you what he said.
Okay.
He said, "Court wants you. Court wants you." Cuz I'm like, "Where are you picking this up from?" He said, "You can't tell." I said, "Nah, I can't tell." He said, "Man, I'm in the room with both of y'all, and I can tell." Right? And so I put a bunch of baby oil on in my tightest, whitest wife beater. The Timbs, the camel color polo peacoat with the collar pop, waves was spinning. I said, if she resists me, oh, it was oiled up. That was baby oil. It was glistening. I said, if she resists me tonight, it's purely platonic. I'm literally in the friend zone. Like if this doesn't appeal to her, then it's nothing. Like this is much to do about nothing. So nothing happened. We watched movies. She put her head on my chest. That was the first move. I was like, oh, it's on now. He made no further moves, gestures, or indications. So I'm like, this chick it's hours now, and I'm laying there like guys. I'm laying there like this for hours, and nothing. I'm like, this. Oh, we really gonna go to sleep? We're really gonna go to sleep? She put her head on my chest and said, "This is how she did it, yo." She's like, "Why are you so hard?" Then she starts doing this, squeezing my muscles. Like, "Oh my gosh, you're so hard." Then she goes down to the abs. I was like, "Here we go. We got action. We got action." She's rubbing her fingers through my ripples. After that, nothing. I'm like, "Oh, you have got to. I am on fire. Fire is on fire. All right." And I'm like, "This is too much. This is too much." I'm so disappointed. And excited at the same time. So nothing happens. I think I had to work out or something the next morning at like 7 a.m. I get up. I think I left my toothbrush there though.
Probably.
I brought my toothbrush. Somebody had made mention to you, like, whose toothbrush is this? You're like, "Oh, that's Rob's." And they start like, "Yeah, right, y'all friends." Just friends. Nothing had happened at that time. I'll take her to the next time.
I don't even know.
See?
The next time was.
See, look.
I mean, like in order. I don't have a chronological timeline from 20 years ago, but
You came.
was that when we went to church?
No, you came to well, we probably did go to church.
He was also that friend that was like, "You should come to church with me." Like, I mean, we really did just have like a beautiful friendship. But I really can't remember.
Let me take a pause and say this, sis. People always talk about the 3 pillars of a sustainable relationship being communication, great lovemaking, and finances and financial stability. And we agree with those 3 things wholeheartedly, but we think that there are 3 things that underpin those. And to Courtney's point, the foundation of this relationship being the friendship itself. Like to me, communication, sex, finances, that's a given. But having a foundation that is rooted in a very strong friendship leads to another third underpinning pillar that I call mutual respect. So when this is your best friend, the mutual respect comes naturally. Yeah. And then the third thing I think that doesn't get talked about a lot is the space to grow, right? So friendship foundation, mutual respect, and the space to grow, because the reality of it is this young lady's not the same woman she was 21 years ago. I'm not the same man that I was 21 years ago. And a lot of people they feel like they are in a relationship with a person that they didn't engage in a relationship with because they're not the same person. That's why you feel like you're with somebody completely different. But if you're not conscious or mindful in allowing this person space to grow, then you're going to find yourself in a relationship or trying to relate to somebody who has expired or expanded.
Yes, true.
And so we've been expanding over the last couple of decades. So it was a foundation of friendship. The next time we met, where it got hot and heavy, you came to my dorm. And that was the first time we kissed. In my dorm.
Am I a terrible wife that I don't remember?
Terrible. you had on.
It's been a long time, Courtney, in your defense.
Okay, thank you.
It's age. It's that age showing itself. And I played football. I'm the one that was banging the last, 20 years. But you had on black jeans. They was either Guess jeans or Levi's, like blue jeans, like denim black jeans. Remember?
Yeah.
Nope.
But I do remember. I had a ton of Guess.
So
jeans. That was my thing. So probably.
Since you had already set the precedent of putting your head on my chest and feeling on my muscles, you pulled one of those. We was in my little twin bed.
Now I don't even know how accurate the story is going to be because I don't remember.
You remember?
You did this. What's my recourse? I already said I don't remember.
I'm gonna jog your memory. So, boom, you land on my chest. Remember the dorm, Bouquet Gardens?
Yeah.
All right, so nobody's there. I think it's just me and you in the suite. And you got your head on my chest. We start kissing, we start grinding, and you're doing the wind on me like you a straight Yardian girl, like you an island girl. Okay, that's her. She got to move. And so
mercy fire.
Then I said what?
Saran, what's your next question?
I said,
and this will not stop, and we'll be an hour in, and you won't even get to all your points.
Listen. I said that you can't do that with them pants on.
We're going to go to the next question.
I bet you can't do that with them pants on.
Let's move on to the next question. What was it about Courtney that caught your attention? When did you take note of, hey, this isn't just it feels good, she's a good friend, she's beautiful, and that type of thing? What essence of her really captured your attention? When did you decide I need her to be mine?
Yeah, that's a great question. So outside of the innate, the indescribable draw that I was talking about earlier, I think we were having a conversation about, and she was going through some things in her relationship. This is when we were in the friend zone, right? She was going through some things with a guy that she was dealing with, and I'm listening to her state, her values, her characteristics, and how she sees relationships, how she sees love, how she sees men, how she sees herself inside of that dynamic. And I'm like, in my mind, it wasn't a conscious thought. It was just like, holy shit, she's everything that you would want in a wife at 18, 19, 18 years old. So I wasn't thinking about getting married at, as a freshman in college, but as she's explaining her disappointment and all the things that I just wanted this, I just wanted that. And I'm like, oh, I want those same things too. I didn't even know I wanted that. I want it now with you. How can we make it happen? But yeah.
Courtney, what was it about him for you? I know it wasn't just the muscles.
It wasn't just the muscles. But he was the first person. I mean, I was 19, right? 19 when we started dating?
Yeah.
And so, obviously, I hadn't had a ton of experience, but the boyfriends that I did have were not athletes. And so, when he talked about the muscle thing, it was honest. It sounds so perverted, but it wasn't. It was really like, wow, you're so hard. I meant that, right? And so that was obviously an attraction thing. But he was just very focused. He had goals. And to be such a young man, anybody that I had talked to prior to that, not that they didn't have goals, but they didn't really have a direction for their lives. And although I couldn't totally articulate my direction, I knew that I had goals and places that I wanted to go. And I knew that eventually I'm going to have to grow up and find somebody that has goals and directions too. And I didn't expect that to happen at 19. I mean, you kind of expect that to happen at 30. or at least 25. But he had that. And then he also had like a really strong spiritual, at the time, religious foundation that turned into a spiritual foundation. And I just like that he was out of the box, willing to do all the silly things I wanted to do, willing to sing in the car with me for hours, willing to do things that were untraditional, that weren't just stuff in the city. You know, I was always a little bit different. Even when I was younger, I've always been, if everybody's doing this, I want to do that. And sometimes it's hard to find somebody else who wants to do the that because so many people are doing the this. But he wasn't like that. He would do stuff outside of the city with me. If I came up with something that was weird or that could be perceived as like, no, I'm down, I'll do it. You know, he wanted to take me to church. You want to come to church with me? You want to meet the pastor? You want to do this reading? And I was like, wow, I like this. Like he likes to do a lot of different things, and he's really open-minded. And that was so super attractive to me. And he was also very driven. You know, he had his goals and he's going to meet them. And just watching him in that process, I was like, man, he makes me want to get my shit together, you know? Not that I was all over the place, but I wasn't as driven. And that might come from a sports thing, right? Because you're forced to, since you're little, you have somewhere to be, you owe it to your team, all these kind of things. Those principles were kind of instilled in him. And those were just all attractive to me. I was like, this is somebody I can really grow with. He also was a super communicator, which is tough to find in guys. At least at the time it was. And to be fair to men, I was 17, 18, 16 when I was dating before, right? So how much communication did you get from a person? But he was very emotionally mature. And so we had really fluid conversation. I didn't have to cry things out like, well, say more about that. Well, what do you mean? Well, he was an over communicator like me. So I felt like I really found my match in terms of somebody that I could have deep conversation with. Or even conversation about nothing, because we would have sometimes we could just dream, right? Yeah. so all of those things led me to be like, man, he's really dope, you know?
Mm-hmm. There's a are you able to see the comment section, Fire?
Yes.
I see Baba Ted saying friendship is a great starting point for lasting connection. It's so easy to look for Mr. or Miss Right in the wrong places. Ain't that the truth, right? So let's talk about your drive to give perspective to
Mm-hmm.
where you guys have been together as a unit. What was your drive at the time? I mean, I know, but for those who are watching for the first time, tell us about your athletic goals and things like that, why you were so driven at the time.
Got you. I think now that I can reflect on my upbringings, I think being young, I was 7 or 8 years old when I determined that I wanted to be a professional athlete, right? So at that age, that became my guiding light. That became my North Star. So when my homies were doing things that would pull me away from that reality, it was easy for me to stay locked in, because any behaviors that weren't aligned with that outcome, you know, I'm not saying I was perfect, but it kept pulling me back to a very narrow and a very straight line. And I knew that there was a process. So I began with the end in mind, and I worked backwards, right? So in order for me to go to the NFL, I knew I had to get a scholarship and go to college. In order for me to go to college and get a scholarship, I knew that I had to have good grades, and I knew that I had to be a standout on the football team. In order to be a standout on the football team, I knew that I had to work out and train and eat right and sleep good and drink tons of water. I also, in order to be a good student, I knew that I had to study. I knew that I had to turn my stuff in on time and get A's and B's on all my quizzes and examinations and turn my homework in. And so those things, I worked, and I didn't even know at that young age that I was doing a sort of a reverse engineering of my life. And so that when she met me, I was already almost 10 years into this plan, right? Wow. So it started at 7, 8. She met me at 18 and we became friends. And I had already developed the discipline. So that's what she saw. So that kept me on the straight and narrow. And quite frankly, when that ended, I had to create something else that was equally as pulling, in terms of pulling me to being a certain way day in and day out, where I can apply discipline. And that's when I made the pivot to the corporate world.
So when were you officially in the NFL?
So my first season, I signed a free agent contract in 2004. I was 23 years old. 23 years old, 6-figure contract. As a matter of fact, it's funny. I got to say this because it's important for people in relationships. I had my dream. She was clear about what my dream was. When she got pregnant with our first child together, money got tight. Things got rough. And I felt like I needed to withdraw from school to work full time, making minimum wage to take care of our family. So now we got married in 2003. I was a junior in college. So we have a son. Our daughter was about a year and a half, 2 years. Well, Lexi was 3 years at that time. She's about 3 years old, 2003. And I came home from practice one day, and I had missed several practices because we didn't have anybody to watch the kids. And I'm like, this is too hard. This is too hard. I'm going to just work full time as a man. You got to be able to take care of your family, blah, blah, blah. I came to her. I told her I'm going to drop out. I'm going to withdraw from school, giving up the scholarship. I'm just going to have to work and thug it out. She looked at me like I had two heads at 18 years old. She was like, babe, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
He was like, I'm gonna work at the Eagles next. I'm like, you're gonna do what?
At the local grocery market, like Giant Eagle, for those of you who know Pittsburgh.
Oh, that's right.
Giant
It's
Eagle.
a grocery store that had a
Eagles
daycare center inside of the grocery store.
So I say that to say it wouldn't have happened if I would have had a woman who was like, yeah, quick, we need that money now. We need. She was like, you're going to be making, even if the NFL doesn't happen with your degree alone, you're going to be making 3 times what you can make, 4 times what you can make if you drop out right now. You only got a year and some change to go.
Yeah. And I think it's fair to say that honestly, I didn't know a ton about football, nor was I really interested in football.
Did not care.
I'm more interested in football now that my son is playing. I'm like super football mom now.
And we'll get to that.
But when he was playing, it just wasn't a thing for me. So we would always get into it about, she comes to the game, she don't pay attention. I believed in his dream, but then he would be like, you don't believe I'm gonna make it. So when he's saying this, I'm not even thinking like, don't quit because of football. I'm thinking you're on a full scholarship. So don't quit because of football in that regard. And we were both in college at the time, and I was commuting over an hour to get to school. The school I wanted to go to was the University of Pittsburgh, and they had admitted me to like a satellite campus, and I was like, I'm not going there.
Okay.
And so I was attending a school called IUP, Indiana University of Pennsylvania, which was a good hour and 20 minutes from where we were in Oakdale. And I would have a commute daily in a car with no air, and somebody stole his radio out the car or a CD player. Like, remember they said the things that stick in, right? And so I literally would commute with a Walkman because I was going to get my music in. Daily.
No heat.
He was no heat, no air. I remember having
air.
a big coat.
No music except for the Discman in your ear.
Yeah, so we were just that we're gonna get these degrees, and if the two of us can make 40,000 by 2004, we can get to 80 together. We're gonna be rich, right?
Balling.
As kids, this is like it's delusional.
Yeah.
But at that point, it made a lot of sense. And 80,000 was worth a lot more than it is now.
For sure.
But that was the dream, And he's like, "You don't understand? I'm gonna go to the NFL." And I'm like, right? Because I didn't really know how good he was or wasn't, because I showed up to the games because that was a girlfriend thing to do, and I wanted to support his dream, but I wasn't sure. But he's like, I'm like, just stay in school because you got a scholarship. Like, that's a huge deal. I'm over here getting all kinds of loans. And eventually I got accepted to Pitt main campus, and life got a little bit easier. And he obviously got the undrafted contract. And when agents start coming to the house, that's when I was like,
light bulb.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, agents?
I was like, you have an agent? He's like, Courtney.
They're courting you? I'm like, she didn't watch the game, sis. Every time I look up, you want to see your lady looking at you, looking down at you from the stands, all proud and beaming. Got the little baby. I look up, she's up there talking to my dad. My dad's right. She's just talking to anybody but paying attention to the game. I'm like, I just can't.
I didn't know what was going on. I'm good now.
Yeah.
Wow. So what was that celebration like?
When I made it, Ooh,
Mm.
I literally was driving. I was in Oakland. I remember where I was. I was in Oakland driving. So in Pittsburgh and Oakland, it's very hilly. And so there's a steep hill they call Cardiac Hill. I was driving up Cardiac Hill, and my agent called me. It was about 9 o'clock at night after the draft. So the draft had just concluded. I did not get drafted. And I knew there was an outside chance I could get drafted, and I didn't run the times that I needed to run during my combine. So I kind of figured it would be late or right after. Literally 15 minutes after the draft concluded, he calls me. He said, "Congratulations, you're a San Diego Charger." I almost crashed the car. I had to pull over. I just started crying the ugly cry. Like my whole life flashed before my eyes from the moment that I told my dad, "Dad, I'm going to be an NFL football player." And he said, "Boy, shut up. Get in there and hit somebody. Get back in the game and hit somebody." That's my dad.
Right.
That's funny. Get in there and hit somebody. And from that moment and everything in between flashed before my eyes in a matter of seconds through my tears. And I was just like uncontrollably sobbing tears of joy.
Courtney, what was that like for you when you heard about it and you heard about the deal itself?
I don't remember. I have the worst long-term memory. Some stuff I can remember. Do you remember telling me? Did you call me? Did you come home?
I think I had a cell phone at that time.
We all had cell phones.
No, I was late to the cell phone game. And I called you and you was like, "Okay, baby, that's great." You still didn't understand like the magnitude of it. You was like, "That's just great. So what does it mean? Like what you have questions. What happens next? Like what do you go? And should we go? Should we pack? Like what do we do?" Right? That was your
I don't remember.
Your whole demeanor.
I really don't. I was really proud of him. I know that, but I don't remember the moment of, "Oh my God, I'm going." I wish that sounds so bad, but I don't remember. But what I do remember, and when it became real for me, when it was super celebratory, was when it was time for him to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
sorry, I can. You're low, Courtney.
She can't hear me.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. When it was time for him to actually leave, that's when it became like real. It was like we were going to California, right? And neither of us had ever been to California, and it seemed so far away, right? Because we were so young, we hadn't traveled there. We were like, it's on the other side of the country.
Right.
Like we're going to be apart.
Yeah.
And he went and he went to camp, and that's when I started doing my research. I was like, how does this NFL stuff work, right? So I started asking a bunch of questions. I was on Google. I wanted to talk to his agent, Mr. Lenta. I was like, what's the agent's number? I need more information about like how this works.
It's real. It's real now.
Yeah, because I'm trying he had to leave school, obviously. And so I'm like, should you be like finishing school? We need to get to this 80,000 because I don't know what's going on with these people. I knew how to draft worked, right? Obviously, we all know how to draft work, but I didn't know how it worked to be a free agent, and it felt a little scary. And so I was like, is he going to be disappointed? Is he going to get cut? I'm finding out there's no guaranteed contracts. Maybe he should just finish this degree and come home. But I couldn't articulate these things, obviously, to him. I had to be his cheerleader and in his corner. And so these were just things that I struggled with internally because I was finding out more and more. And when he was in camp, they started doing a camp diary.
Mm-hmm.
And he started singing in the choir to do volunteer work for the team. And everything was just falling in place. And he would call me and be all excited, like, yeah, we went to see the troops today because he was in San Diego. That's a huge thing with the Chargers. Went to see the troops today. We did this give back. I got to sing in the choir. He had a teammate that he got really cool with, and the teammate was married to in the NFL. And that was the other thing that became comforting. A lot of the players are married really young, so it's cool because we were all like at that time. And he found a teammate that was married, and they would do movie nights together so they wouldn't be getting in trouble because some of the single guys was doing the fun stuff. And it was just cool. And I was like, oh, shit, like, this is real. Like, he really made his dream come true. Like, I didn't, it started falling in place. And the Chargers started doing a camp diary on him where they would interview him. And he was like the only rookie that this was happening to. And they would publish Rob's journey throughout as an undrafted free agent. And then he made the team. He started talking. He's telling me about the Turk, and they're coming out of doors and they're knocking on the doors. And if they knock on your door, you're out. And I'm like, oh my God. Like I remember not sleeping because I'm like, if they knock on his door, what am I gonna do when he comes home? Like, what do I do? Do I hug him? Do I cry? I gotta put on my strong face.
Mhm.
You know, it's so foreign. I didn't know how to be, what to do. Like, how do I be this NFL wife to this undrafted free agent, right?
Right.
And I say that part because there's no guaranteed contract, right? And obviously some players got big sign-on bonuses, and so you knew that they weren't going to be released. I didn't have that certainty, but I knew how excited he was and how much he was fitting in, and I just did it. I was trying to figure out what my role would be if things didn't go well. But they went super well that first year, and that's when I was like, wow, I was just so proud of him and so excited because, you know, he made it. He made it through. It's not a small thing. I think a lot of people don't understand the trauma of it all. A lot of these guys go through a lot of trauma trying to do sports because they fall in love with it, and it's brutal at that level.
Yeah.
College part is actually funner when you don't have that kind of stress and pressure.
Yeah, agree.
Mm-hmm.
Agree.
Yeah.
Okay, very nice, interesting. Peace and blessings, everybody. Hi, Mary. Hi, Charmaine. Hi, Priscilla. Welcome. So let's shift gears just a little bit. Let's talk about the impact. Well, your situation would be very unique. I really wanted to address procreation.
Mm.
And, the change or the shift that made in your relationship. And also, I would also like to piggyback. Prior, you instantly became a dad.
Right.
You know, at the inception of a relationship. What was that like for you? Because I know sometimes that can be very, very challenging.
That's a great question, actually, sis. I think my upbringing's prepared me for responsibility at an early age. So for those of you who don't know, follow the 4 Elements United, I was a latchkey kid, single mom, the whole story, was responsible for my little brother at 7. So I'm 7, he's 5. I got the latchkey. I got to make sure he gets into the house. He's fed. He doesn't get beat up. He does his homework. Plus, I got to handle my stuff all my stuff at 7, and then get the football practice, which we had to walk 3 miles. So by the time her and I had a connection that was so strong, I don't know what, I don't know how, I don't even know why. I just knew that there was a package deal. And that day, after the day where we were in my dorm that she so casually forgot, and I wasn't misreading it, Baba Ted. I was trying to get her to remember what happened. Trying to save her from not remembering our beautiful beginnings. And she just, no recollection. So I said to her, do you remember this? I said to you that I made you my girlfriend, and I said, I got you and Lexi. And you said, you don't have to do that. I got my daughter. You're not her dad. And I was like, no, that's not going to work. That's not going to work for me. If I choose you, then I choose her, and I choose you, and I choose her. So that I'm her. That's my daughter. That's our daughter.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
And what I meant by that statement is that, like, because she had a dad, right?
Right.
So I just meant that it didn't have to be a package deal to that extent because she had an active father, and then she had me. So that's funny because even hearing you say that statement, like, that's totally something that I said at 19. That had I been even 25 when we met, I would have been like, "You're right, it is a package deal." You know what I mean? It's funny hearing it because it's like, "Oh hell, yeah, that's right, I did say that."
Yeah. So I think so that plus procreating and us getting together and creating Amani, she called it. She would you tell them what you said to me, baby?
Would you stop?
Go ahead, tell them.
What did I say? What did I say?
You said I'm gonna have your babies before you got pregnant.
Let me tell this story.
You tell. I ain't gonna tell it because my stories are raw.
His stories are very raw and lack a lot of substance.
I get straight to the point.
Yeah, but they misinterpreted. That was a statement that was made during sex. It was not intentional at all.
You didn't mean it?
If he's no. And if
you just talking smack in my ear, but you didn't really want to get pregnant. Is that what you said?
Exactly.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
if we're being honest, really with Amani and Aaron, I mean, you're obviously just like your parents say, right? And now we say to our teenagers, if you are sexually active and you're not using active protection, then you're trying to have a child, right?
Facts.
But as a child, as a young person, you don't process that. You're like, no, I'm definitely not trying to have a child.
Right.
So yeah, that was a statement that was made casually, not intentionally. But I mean, blessings nonetheless.
I think
Yeah, beautiful kids.
to answer your question, we didn't know this at the time, but looking back, sis, we went from this state of infatuation where it was like her and I in this bubble, like against the world kind of a thing. And then once she got pregnant and then she had Amani, the kids, both the newborn baby, is being nursed, and then we got the milk because Courtney's got to go to school and work. So she couldn't nurse him for more than, the first few weeks of his life. And our universe became about them.
Mm-hmm. I would take you to class with me.
Yeah.
In the car seat. I fit.
She would take Amani to class. I would take him to practice. So Lexi would go to daycare. He was too young. We didn't want him in daycare. She would literally take him to class in a car seat. I would literally take him to football practice.
Wow.
And the trainers will watch my son so that I can make it to practice because I missed a couple practices. I didn't have a babysitter. My coach said, "Man, you got real grown man problems, and you're a little bitty kid in college." I said, "Listen, this is my life." He said, "I don't ever want you to miss practice again. You bring your son to practice if you don't have babysitters for him, and the trainers will look after him." And that's what they did.
And it sounds so rough. Like even anytime we go down this, for lack of a better term, rabbit hole of things from the past, it sounds so rough. And at the time, it was just like,
This is what it is.
what? Like it really didn't feel rough.
This is life.
But it wasn't as a fully functioning adult. It sounded really rough. But it was like we just made it work.
Right.
And I think it became really all that we knew because I mean we've had 9 relocations. We never lived in a city after we were in our early 20s where we even had family.
Right.
So it's always just been us and the kids. And everybody's been like this, right? Because we've had to be each other's rock, really, since, our whole marriage and their whole lives is really just all we know. We never had the comfort of not taking your kids. I mean, don't get me wrong, our parents were super active.
Right.
Like my mom would fly out all the time. My dad flew out when he was living, less out with my mom, but he did. My in-laws are amazing. They will fly out. My mother-in-law, still to this day, we fly them back and forth because we have a 10-year-old and the teenagers be irresponsible. But we're watching her sometimes. But so we had family, obviously, but they had jobs and their real life. And so in our real life, we've always really just been us on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And
So how many kids in total do you have now?
4.
4, and what are the ages?
Alexis is 22. She'll be 23 in 2 weeks. And Aaron just turned 17 in July. Amani's going to be 20 in November. And Aubrey is 10. She turned 10 in March.
Nice. 4.
Yeah. 2 and 2. 2 boys, 2 girls.
So really 2 adults and 2 kids.
That's true.
Okay.
They don't want to be referred to as kids anymore.
They don't.
They let us know.
Yeah.
And I've seen the videos on Facebook that you've posted. Real fire. I said, look at them legs.
You can go.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So let's talk about relationships in terms of conflict resolution.
Yeah.
How do you guys approach solving issues and problems and conflict?
I'll go high level. You give more substance, all right, to the structure. So I'm gonna give you structure. Courtney, from the time I met her, and she talked about earlier our communication, she was never the space for an unresolved conflict to go unmet or undiscussed. So there's no going to sleep. If you're in turmoil, if you're in conflict, there was literally not an option for me to sleep on it. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. It was just like, she's like, nah. If it's in her space, it has to be discussed. I mean, there are times where we may have had a fight and like an argument or a disagreement. We don't fight. Okay.
Right.
I never raise my hand to my wife. Never will. And if anybody else raises their hand to my wife, it's all bad. Um, so she would literally get up out the bed, pull the covers back, flick on all the lights, and be like, "Oh, oh, we're going to talk about this." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" It's like 2:00 in the morning. She's like, "No, we have to talk about this." I'm like, "Okay." So after that happened a couple times, I realized that you're wasting your time trying to go to sleep on this woman and try to be mad. We don't have the kind of relationship where we have disagreements and they fester overnight, and I'm on the couch, right? Or she's on the couch or in the bed. That I don't think I've ever slept on the couch in 20 years. Like, we don't do that. And she just wasn't the space for it. So I got on board with her program with regards to that. But do you want to give me more substance or context to conflict resolution? That just set the tone for me. That just said to me that things have to be worked out. Okay, so I'm gonna work them out. But that was I will give you props for creating that context for the fact that we got to get in there and talk about it.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I think earlier on the conflict resolution, I can't take credit for saying that I thought it out and consciously said, "Oh, we can't go to bed angry." I think that's just part of who I am. I was so unresolved anytime we had a dispute that I was like, I can't go to sleep, so he can't go to sleep. We have to figure this out. And even if the resolution was, I need a minute, let's talk about it later, I still needed the communication of, let's agree to talk about it later. Like, let's at least bring some temporary resolve to it. Not that I'm not big on forcing somebody to communicate before they're ready, but I want us to agree that we're going to communicate later if that's the case. And most of the time, it turned out that we were able to talk about it in that moment.
Yeah.
And this is going to sound funny and probably almost doesn't sound real, but it's true. In 20 years, we just haven't had a ton of conflict. With the conflict that we had was big conflict. Right. But I can also probably count on two hands how many times we had conflict. Because on a day-to-day basis, it's not a lot of tension. And I think that comes from, like I said, that's just only having each other. Like, we always had to communicate. It's just me and you in a city where we know, and our kids, we got to figure this out.
Right.
So, and we're both, like I said in the beginning, over communicators. So there's never been like somebody who's more on the, I don't really want to talk, or I have a hard time communicating my feelings. So we were on the same page there. So I think we got really blessed, honestly, when it came to communication, and we just haven't, conflict resolution hasn't really been a thing. But for other people, I would just say that communication is the key. Agree on something that works for you in terms of how you resolve conflict. But I can't really say that I have the tools to tell other people, because that's my experience just hasn't been that.
I will say this. Let me add this before you go to the next question, sis. Because in myself, as I'm listening to you, in myself, I think about the seasons where there was tension that you may not have known. And it 9 times, 10 times out of 10 is because I'm very sensitive, y'all. Courtney, like I'm sensitive. I'm super, I feel everything. I internalize everything. And so there's been times where I went inside my own mind or my own head because I didn't feel safe or comfortable speaking my mind, my truest mind. And sometimes that was driven by a fear of being vulnerable. Like, if I feel a way, but if I say I feel this way, does that make me soft? Does that make me less of a man? If I share with her my true feelings, like when you did that or when you said that, that really hurt my feelings. Like, it took me a while to get to a point where I can say that and not feel like a Mitch or something. But because I realized, like, just because you're a man doesn't mean that you don't have emotions. You have you're human. You have emotions. And just because you're a man, it doesn't mean that anger is the only emotion that you could justifiably wield and be socially accepted. So no, I tapped into all the emotions. I was raised by my mom, and I started telling her how I felt, and that made things a lot better. The other side of emotions that I kept inside, so I would call that the embarrassment or shame bucket. So once I dealt with that fear of being vulnerable, things got even more deep between the two of us. The other bucket was the things that I thought wouldn't go over well. Like, if I say this is not going to go so well. Like, she's not going to receive your truth in kind and think she's going to internalize it and make it personal about her. So I will keep those things inside as well. My message to you all who are in relationships or aspire to be in relationships: yes, be crafty, be tactful with how you deliver what you have to say, but don't let things go unsaid, right? You have to speak your heart. You have to speak your truth. You have to speak your disposition, even if you preface it by saying, this is just how I see it. I'm not saying this is ultimately true. I'm not saying this is absolute truth. This is just where I'm at from how I see the situation. And then you say what you need to say, because if you let it fester, oh man, that turns into resentment. It turns into anger. And if you got some insecurities within you already, that turns into some activities that you shouldn't be, engaging in. So I want to give y'all that while you open the space. Thanks, sis.
Thank you. Thank you. So, let's talk about your marriage. They talk about that honeymoon phase, where everything is all bliss, there's no conflict and that kind of thing, and then it wears off, like about the 3-4 year mark, that kind of thing. Did you guys notice that difference? Did it shift from fresh to, okay, we're in the zone type energy? Or was it consistent?
No, I don't think that happened. But I think I can justify why that didn't happen, because I think that's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just being an observation of other people's marriages and knowing how things work, that's real. I think it wasn't real for us. Again, there's a lot of nuances and things that happen when you get into a relationship when you're really young, as opposed to when you get into a relationship when you're a fully functioning, independent adult and have been for years, right? And so I think we didn't really have the honeymoon phase to begin with. Like, we had the butterflies and all of that, but we went into a situation where we were already, obviously you don't have money when you're young, right? You have as much sense as you have, but you don't have a ton of wisdom.
Right.
You kind of just got to figure things out, but you're also young enough to be willing to figure things out, and you're not set or stuck in any ways that you may have developed over time, right? So you're just more malleable. And so because of that, I think the honeymoon phase wasn't really there. It wasn't like, oh, we got married and had this beautiful wedding, and then, we were doing all of these adult things in normal life, and then we brought children in and we really struggled with having the kids. And that didn't happen. We were just young and we wanted to make shit work, right? We both had the desire to be like, let's just make it work, right? And things that if they happened again now would probably have me on the floor crying, like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Back then it was just like, whatever, God got us.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so a lot of casualty, and it was just a ton of love. And I think we survived on love.
Yeah.
For a lot of time, that's all we survived on love, and we were young parents, and still are for the most part. And we had a ball with our kids.
Still do.
And not as much because they don't want to hang with us as much as they used to.
True.
But when they were younger, we could take them to a jump place and we jumped with them. Like, we just, if we needed to go roll up some coins and pull up in a parking lot and cash the coins in, we did that. And now I wouldn't be doing that. I'm 39 years old. I'd be like, dude, I'm not cashing in the damn coins. Right. It was like, you roll this one, I'll roll that one. And then we just will roll in there and get our money, So there wasn't a honeymoon phase. Our whole time was a honeymoon. We just rolled with the punches as we grew. And by the grace of God, we grew together in the same direction. And I'm very aware that the chances of that happening were not great.
Okay.
Right. And so that's why I feel so blessed. And I can only say that I give that glory totally to God. Us too for doing the work, because we had to do a lot of work. We had to overcome a lot of stuff. We had to put our egos to bed. I'm sure there were times for both of us, I can speak for myself, where it was like, I don't want to do this, right? That didn't happen too many times, but it might have happened a time or two. And I had to reevaluate and determine that I wanted to keep doing it ultimately. But it's just been a blessing. It's hard because I always want to pour into other couples, but I'm so aware that our reality is not the reality of what a lot of people experience, right? Going into relationships at this stage and age and trying to figure life out because they've had a different experience than us.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I think the honeymoon stage came and it just kind of hung out.
Yeah.
And maybe we're going to have the real honeymoon stage. Like, we haven't had that stage where it's just me and him.
Right.
Some people have that first for 10 years and they have kids, and then the world changes, right? And they're like, holy shit, what do we do now? We're just used to it being us. I think we'll have a real honeymoon stage when all of our kids are grown and we're still 45, right? Then it'll be like, oh my God, we can like really do whatever we want. And we're still young enough to do, like, that's when we do. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. So tell me, in your marriage now, are there any gender roles? Fire, I know that you touched on this on King's panel. What are the gender roles, if any?
We probably prioritize efficiency and effectiveness over gender. So what do you mean, Fire? Well, whoever's the best at the task, whoever can get the task done with twice the quality in half the time, that's who does the task. It's simple. Like we don't trip. Oh, that's a man thing. That's a girl thing. That's a woman thing. Like, if I can cook better than her, and half the time that she prepares and cooks the food, then I would be the one doing the majority of the cooking. That's just not the case. It's just not the case. Am I right?
I mean, yeah, you make good daddy noodles, but you're not the cook. I'm not calling daddy noodles, but you're not the cook. But that's true.
Yeah.
But we never had that. It was just like the trash needs to go out, you take it out. And then because of the way that our marriage has gone, we went from traveling for 4 or 5 years for football to travel, and then he used to travel a lot corporately. So I was a single mom a lot, and the kids were little. And I say single mom with air quotes because you guys know what I mean. I was never a single mom, but I was with the kids alone a lot because of his travel.
Mm-hmm.
And if the garbage needed to go out, I darn sure couldn't wait until he came back. You know what I mean? Like I needed to take, if a light bulb needed to change, I needed to change the light. And so, and if he needed to do something that I guess will be considered feminine, then he needed to do that. And we also we never really had that mom duties, dad duties. I mean, obviously he can't nurse a child, so I had to do that. Right. But with all my kids being little, from the time I had them, even when they were infants, if I nursed Aubrey, I'm going to Target, to Starbucks, and wherever else I need to go for my midday buy. And he would have the baby since they were little. So we never really got into that. I got to ask him to watch the kids. I can't leave without his permission. Like we literally share every responsibility that there is to share, unless one of us isn't good at it.
Right. I mean, I think when the babies were born, we would take turns getting up. Like if she had pumped or prepared bottles, I would get up, right, so that she can get some sleep. And we were just always in a teammateship, a partnership. Even when it comes to having conversations with the kids, right? So some people may say, you know, this is a man conversation to have with his sons, and this is a man conversation to have with his daughter. I think we have those, but we both talk to all of our kids about everything.
Yeah, true.
Literally, like there's no topic that none of our kids can say, I talk to dad only about this, or I talk to mom only about this. They may talk to one of us more or deeper in that particular subject because it's kind of uncomfortable, you know, like it's uncomfortable for our oldest daughter to talk to mom about sex. And when I relay some of those conversations to my wife, she's like, why are you talking to her about this? Somebody's got to, you know, like somebody's got to be the ear.
Yeah, they have a different level of comfortability with, and it's not based on gender.
Yeah.
Like she'll talk to him about something that I'm like, wouldn't you talk to me about that? She's like, no, I want to talk to you. I'm like, okay. Well, you know, so
we let them choose.
Yeah, so no, we haven't had the gender thing.
Mm-mm.
So switching gears completely, do you have friends of the opposite sex?
Nope.
He used to have friends with us. Right?
She stole them all.
No, I didn't. I did not all of them. Only the ones I liked. They like me too. They like me too.
Yeah, it was an actual.
It was a mutual thing where we just kind of fell in love with each other, and then they became my girlfriends. But then he used to have other ones that would call here and there, but no. And I've never had male friends because they would have to be like introduced into the marriage. I've tried to have a male friend just because I like guys, but it was weird. I had this one male friend, remember, that I met on set. He was
yeah.
And we were cool.
Yeah.
And then it always gets to a point where something awkward happens, and you're like, you're not a real friend. I it doesn't work out. But
I I think we naturally.
But I still want a male friend. Like I still need a bro.
You can get you a gay one.
Fire, why you say that? It has to be a gay one.
You can have a husband. I'm good with the husband.
I'm open to a husband too, but I mean,
so
if he's straight, that's okay too.
Here's what we learned through trial and error, just observation, right? We're both very warm and engaging people to all people, both males and females. So I naturally always had a lot of female friends. I probably had more female friends than guy friends growing up. I had a lot of sisters, right? And I'm gonna say 99.98% of those relationships strictly platonic. I never had a thought, and I don't think they had a thought because I would have felt something being an empath. I didn't feel that from my sisters. But as we grew, I think we both noticed that the time that we would invest in these friendships just on the phone, that we could reinvest that time in ourselves and in our relationship, in our family, because we always had a lot going on. And I think for her, in my observation, and I was one of them, I'm guilty of being somebody who showed up as a homie. And then after 90 days of talking to this young lady and going to Walmart at 12 o'clock at night and holding hands and watching movies, I'm like, I need that. Like, I need that for me. I need it for myself, right? And I had a girlfriend. So I start yearning and desiring this energy more than that. And eventually that went away and this became the main thing. And so when guys are dealing with my wife, she's big brother and sister energy, and she's just being who she is. I think dudes get to a point where it's like, now let me tell Court about my situation, my homegirl Court. Let me tell you about my girlfriend, my wife, this, that, and my dreams, all the things that he should be speaking to his partner. Yeah. He's now sharing it with her, and then it gets weird. And it's just like, we know this. It's happened like 7 times. And so
why are you so hyped though?
Because I hate it. I hate that it happens. I hate that it happens because we're not friends no more. Like, bro, and it's subtle, right? It's subtle. We're both very sensitive when it comes to reading energy. And so when I know that the broski has crossed that line in his mind, even if he hadn't said anything, it's like, you're dead to me. I like you don't have any self-control. Where I want a woman like Court becomes I want Court. I went through the same process, so I understand how it goes. It's like I want a woman like that to. Why don't I just get
on?
Yeah. Somebody give me a husband.
Yeah, get yourself a husband. I'm here for it.
So let's talk about parenting. Well, clearly I already know the answer to this question. Is there any conflict, or is there any way that children can be very manipulative, and they can create a divide between parents by maneuvering a particular way? Has there ever been, or is there that in your relationship where there's a pull and push in terms of your parenting style? Which one is the strict one? Which one lets everybody get away with everything? Is there any dynamic like that in your relationship?
Let's start with they try to manipulate us equally, so nobody's
nobody's more
manipulated than the other person. They definitely try to manipulate us equally, or at least used to try to. I think they've sort of grown out of it at this point.
Yeah.
We definitely have difference in parenting styles, though. That wasn't something that we ever really talked about until we got older and we already had kids and the kids were growing. Then it was like, I wouldn't do that, right? We were obviously raised different too. Like I was raised in a 2-parent household until I was 14, and then he was raised as a latchkey kid by his mom, and his dad was still in his life, but didn't live with him. And his mom and my mom had different parenting styles as well. They're even different grandparents. And so one's not better than the other, but it was different.
It's different.
And so I parented more like my mom parented. And he parented probably more like his dad parented. And some a little bit of your mom too.
Yeah.
So there definitely was, I guess you could call it conflict. I mean, it never really became too much of an argument about the parenting style, but it was an observation. And we definitely had to talk about it. There's been times where I'm like, why would you do that? Like just certain stuff you don't agree with. So I think we came to a conclusion of like, we need to talk before we talk to the kids. Like, don't go do something without talking to me, because maybe I don't agree with you telling them that, or you having that conversation in that way. Up to now, I think sometimes we just still have like disagreements on really more of the boy stuff, like stuff that's man stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really talking to them like that, you know, and I'm like sensitive because they're my boys, and you know, I want them to be, from my perspective, spoken to like kings all the time. Even if they're behaving as less than kings, I want them to be poured into and spoken to like kings, you know. And so I'm like, don't scream at him, or don't say this, or don't say you're behaving like a little, or whatever, you know. I can't even think of the exact words, but like that stuff. And sometimes he's like, these are my sons. There are certain stuff that like, just stay out of it. And I'm like, I don't like that, you know. So we definitely still have that. We don't have it as much with the girls because I think we kind of both treat them the same way.
Yep.
But definitely with the boys.
What she's saying is, to tie a bow on it, is, you know, I grew up in a household where, you know, corporal punishment, chastising, spankings were a norm. You know, they were a tactic deployed to correct behavior, or correct deviant behavior, or unsafe behavior, things that would lead you down a path of disaster, destruction. And so that was my first tool, right? Especially when they were little. So I think the majority of the conflict occurred when the kids were little, because once they got to an age where now you can get your butt spanked, and she was just like why would, what situation, they can burn the house down, still not worthy of a butt spanking. Like, no, like they need therapy, or maybe they need to talk to somebody, right? So she just,
I didn't think they needed therapy.
No.
I just felt like I still feel that spanking, beatings, whoopings, whatever you want to call them, are strongly tied to slavery. You don't have to put your hands on anybody to tell them that what they're doing is wrong. And if your communication isn't enough, then there's still other consequences that can occur. But I just don't believe in that. And I know for some kids it works. Like some people are like, and we have 4 kids, right? So all kids are different. You might be able to smack this one on the wrist and they never do it again. The next one you smack on the wrist, they might be like, haha, I got your number. Just because you smacked me, I'm gonna do that shit 4 more times, right? Right? So you kind of know your kid's personality profile to determine the best way to parent them and what's going to work best for them. And we had to grow into that.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely not. I'm still not an advocate for spanking. Not or too old to get spanking, but I'm not an advocate for that at all.
And that was something I had to grow out of, because she was right. I mean, that was my go-to thing. And then we'll talk after you cry, get the spanking, cry, take that,
and then you speak.
And then you speak, right? And she was more or less on the speak side first. And so, like in the last 7 to 10 years, if I get to a point where there's a spanking with the boys, I know there's nobody. That's why I said last 7 to 10 years. And I just, it's because of repetitive conversations, and the conversations doesn't work. Now the spanking is the last line of resort, and I've never spanked our 10-year-old, and I probably never will.
No, and she's not the space. Like she's like, what? Like, like
I would not spank Aubrey. She's just not the space for her. She's it doesn't work.
Communicator too, so she'd be like, you could have just said that.
She doesn't need it. She doesn't need it.
No.
Yeah. Know your kid. The takeaway is talk about your styles, your parenting styles, where they came from, understand, be able to articulate where they are, agree on the best practices going forward, so that you guys have a process. Maybe that process is conversation, whether it's one-on-one with the mom or the dad, or 2-on-1 with the parents and the kid, and it's the cell phone taken away, or it's the video game taken away, or it's the thing that they love taken away. And then there's got to be a progression till you get to a point where it turns physical. I will say, admittedly, I would tell anybody what I just told you now, and I'm going to coach my kids to do the same thing when they become parents. The spanking thing has to be like the last resort, in my opinion. It's especially for kids where it doesn't work.
Got you.
And they
So,
do it anyway.
Yeah.
Know that part.
huh?
I said, and the second part of that is knowing that they're still going to do it anyway. Like you could take a phone, you could say you can't have friends stay the night. They can get a whooping, spanking, whatever. At some point in the kids just go through a
Be
process
kids.
of being hormonal and being kids and having to learn things the hardest way. And so I feel like the thing that my kids have learned most from, of course, we've communicated and set them down and done all the parenting things that one day when they're older, they're going to go, oh my God, my mom did. Like they're going to value that one day.
Right.
The thing that when they really had changed behavior, it was when they touched the fire and it was hot.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was like, oh, right. The same way we all learn.
This is what you're trying to protect me from. I get it now.
So fire. Given your background and your history in the NFL, what are your thoughts? What do you feel now that is it the two boys or just the first one? Both?
Two. They both play. The older one is hurt injured right now. He's playing at a junior college. So yeah, both of them have college ability and beyond that.
So, Courtney, what was that like for you? I mean, you spoke earlier about the trauma that athletes go through.
Uh-huh.
I mean, watch your husband and what he went through. How difficult is that now? It's not your mate. These are your sons. How difficult is that for you?
It's so different. When he played, I never thought about him getting hurt. It was a reality, but I just didn't think about it. And he was one of the rare athletes who never had any surgeries until the very end. So he had made it all through high school and college surgery free. And so I just I took that for granted, I guess, and just didn't think about it. With my sons, it's like, oh my God, why did he hit him that hard? Why did he every little thing is like sensitive, but they've been playing since they were 5. So now I'm not as sensitive and I understand the game and I'm totally invested and involved now, but I worry about it. I worry about their health. Obviously, the new discussion of CTE wasn't around when he played and is very alive and well now, and that's scary. I worry about the things that people don't talk about, like making it, right? The little one, both of them have a chance to make it. The little one has always wanted to make it and has always had that fire of this is my dream. And so as his mom, something in my spirit tells me that he will make it all the way. My older one, I feel like he can make it all the way, no doubt, but he has to want it. He has to have a mind shift. And I don't know if I don't think he knows if he wants to do that yet as a career, but the little one definitely knows he wants to. And so I worry about things like the head. When you're playing football, everybody loves you. Everybody wants the best for you. You're invited to everything. You can do everything. You're a superhero. And, football is a helmet sport is what I call it.
Yeah.
They know you in the helmet. You take the helmet off, like, who the hell are you? That's what kind of happens when it ends. It's like, who? Oh, he's washed up. Even if you listen to the young kids talk about the older players that were once the greats, they're like, who? Man, ain't nobody thinking about him. We on to Jalen Ramsey or whoever, right? And so it's that transition, too, that these men have to go through. So I worry about things like that. Like, wow, if he does make it, how do we keep him grounded? How do we remind him of his foundation and really instill that this is temporary? Because football is very temporary, very temporary.
Yeah.
Most people's done by 34 if you have a long career. And so where does he go from there? And starting to just help him find those interests right now to say, like, what else do you want to do? He said he's interested in film directing. And so we're trying to look at picking the schools, not just for football, but where he can get the full scholarship and also start to develop some film projects, get your own YouTube channel, get your blue check, start to do your influencing, make money from other places.
Right.
Just in case something, his career were to end, and it is going to end, they all end, even on good terms. So it's all of those things, just making sure he's going to be mentally okay, making sure, who do you choose to be in your life, choosing somebody that's not there for football and that really understands what it takes to be a wife and not somebody who just wants to be in the spotlight. And these are all things down the road, but as a mom, there are constant thoughts of like, wow, I just want him to be okay, and so that's really what it is just helping to keep him completely grounded and not to make football a bigger thing than it is because it's temporary.
I actually I'm seeing a comment here. Why don't you invite your guests to the beautiful peaceful paradise of Antigua and Barbuda. They will be coming. They will come
Oh,
eventually.
for sure.
But I did want to. What was
Yeah,
the
for
question?
sure.
There, man, there was something that you just said where land and sea make beauty. Is that? um, I wanted to ask about the importance of forgiveness
Mm.
in a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
You guys speak to that. I think too often, we're very, especially now with social media, there's a lot of influence that
Mm-hmm.
we allow to penetrate the way in which we relate to people that we love and care for. And sometimes we're very, very quick to terminate things. We're not very, you know, easy to forgive.
Mhm.
We're not, you know. So, can you speak to that? The importance of being able to forgive.
Forgiveness, as cliche as it is for us, right? I
Mm.
mean, it always is because when we harbor resentment, we end up in a negative place. I think what I've learned personally is to take my time with forgiveness in a relationship. And so anything that I've had to forgive, I've been really upfront and honest. And you tell me if you disagree, but I've been like really upfront and honest with like, I'm not there yet. Like I don't forgive, I haven't forgiven. I want to. That's my intention.
Yeah.
But I'm not able to, honestly say that I'm there. And so I think just being able to communicate that and being like, listen, I know it's my intention and I do believe I will get there. And here's the things you can do to maybe help the journey along that
Right.
path of forgiveness. And when I get there, I will come to you and say, I forgive you.
Right.
But the idea of someone doing something, whether it's to you or just it happened and affected you, and just saying, I'm sorry, okay, I forgive you. To me, that is just not honest.
Mhm.
I don't even process fast enough to forgive you just because you said sorry, but I will accept an apology and then I will determine whether I want to forgive. And if I do, then I'll articulate my journey of forgiveness. And when I get there, I will say I forgive you.
Yeah.
So that's my process. I think it is extremely important because you can't, if you're not able to forgive, you might have to get out of the relationship,
True.
right?
True. True. True.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Like for me, thank my lucky stars, I really haven't had much to have to forgive Courtney about. Right? It's just small things, like not watching my game. Like that's small. Coming to my game and not watching. That's that's
Right.
that's minuscule. That's easy to forgive, but I think on the other side, being the one who needed forgiveness, you know, a few times, the thing that I had to learn is it is your actions or inactions that cause this whole situation where you need to be forgiven. Because I used to get frustrated with the time it took. Courtney is 100% authentic and genuine when she says she would articulate to me, I'm trying, I'm just not there yet. And in my mind, I'm like, well, it's been like
Mhm.
a year. You know what I mean? But I'm gonna be honest, it's been like 60 days. Like we gotta get over this. Like it's like
Mhm.
I had to put myself in her shoes. And when I put myself in her shoes as I got older, it was like I can't cause this. I can't cause nor allow this kind of pain. I can't do it. Even if I have gone into a state of unconsciousness within myself, even if I've given myself over to a stronghold or a racket or a narrative that enables or allows me to operate outside of my commitments, my promises, my vows,
Mhm.
I I I cannot. I can't. I'm just not the space for it. But it took a while for me to get there. And to any guy or gal who is on the side of being the one that needs to be forgiven, just know and remind yourself that you were the reason why you're the reason why we're here. And
Mhm.
so if and your person's telling you I need more time, you got to thug it out. So I decided to thug it out. I didn't know how, I didn't know when, I didn't know how long, I didn't know when she would, if she would get over it. But 6, 7 years. And I'm in the clear, and I'm staying the clear. So if you have something worth fighting for, if your partner articulates to you, I'm trying my best to get over it, and they may not be giving you all of them. You can tell they're kind of guarded. You can tell, and they're protecting themselves and their hearts from you or from disappointment. And then that to you feels like, oh, well, she's not opening up to me fully, and I feel like I'm being neglected. Don't make yourself a victim out of a situation that you caused. Like, I had to stop myself. Like, dude, we wouldn't be here. Look in the mirror. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, bro.
Got you.
And it's true. It's like the best aid in forgiveness is change behavior of any sort. Anything that you're sorry for, it could be the littlest thing. If you're truly sorry, that's like we talked about. Forgiveness on the opposite spectrum of that, right, is saying I'm sorry. I think sometimes people just inadvertently say I'm sorry, just like they say, "Oh, I forgive you," and there's no thought to it. It's like, don't say you're sorry until you're ready to change the behavior, and don't say I forgive you until your heart has allowed you to truly get to forgiveness. Because the thing that people make the most is to be told that they're forgiven for something, and then for it to be continuously brought up.
Right.
Because you don't forgive them, and that's okay, right? I think we all want to forgive, and we all have this idea. Because as you mentioned, social media, we live in a world now where everything is about self-help and self-care, and everybody's in, and everybody's that rolled off my shoulder, and I forgave instantly.
Oh,
that's
anxious.
Exactly. The world we live in, right? And it's just not a reality. You don't forgive somebody in seconds, not if it really hurt, right? And you're not sorry in seconds if you haven't processed what you've done and really felt remorse for it. And so some things take time, and it's just about the communication of letting someone know where you genuinely are, so that when you do move past it and you are sorry, the behavior changes. And when you do forgive, it's not a thing that you need to mention anymore. It's not a trigger if it comes up. So that's what I would say about forgiveness.
Got you. No, I remember the question I was going to ask before. You were talking about your boys playing in the NFL, and you, Courtney, you touched on the fact that you're hoping and praying that they actually don't get somebody who's interested because of the NFL journeys and things like that, but actually interested in being a wife. So my question for you, Fire, how important, if at all, is it for, in an ideal situation, for their mates to look like their mother? And I'm talking racial.
Being a Black woman.
Are you talking about racial makeup?
Yes, indeed.
Oh. So from my default perspective, that would be ideal. What I have to understand is that they grew up in a different environment than I did, and so they have more multicultural perspective. And with that being said, the prospects of them and their the population, just the actual makeup of the population, it puts them in a high probable circumstance by which they will have somebody who's either mixed or of Latin descent, right? And so
maybe not in college though, but
kind of similar when they get to college too. So I just have to accept. It's about acceptance. I don't force that. I don't force my kids to do anything, believe it or not. I don't even force them to choose their paths. Like, their paths chose them. The whole football thing, people think because I played football, I wanted my son to be a lawyer. Like, when he told me he was going to be a lawyer, I was just over the moon. And I showed him the video. I was like, whatever happened to the lawyer thing, guy? Now you want to play football, right? So I don't force them in their vocation. That was gifted to them and given to them before they came here. And when it comes to their love and their love lives, I don't force it. I'm not gonna lie and say when they started to date outside of their race that I was like, yo, Court, we gonna have some pale grandbabies. Like, we're gonna have some mixed grandbabies. Like, all of them, like all three of them. Like, what we gotta move so that Aubrey can have a chance where we're not 4% of the population in the school. You know what I mean? Like, we gotta live in a different locality just to even increase the probability, and that's real. Mm-hmm. They go to Calabasas, sis. That'll be my boy.
Well, even before we moved here, the districts that we lived in
predominantly
have been PWI. but they have had some color, and I've had conversations with the boys and Lexi about, obviously not Aubrey, she's 10, but the other kids, you know, I've had conversation about dating inside of their race and how important that is to me. I would never mistreat anybody that they chose, because they have to live their life with that person and they have to love that person. That is not my ideal. But if I haven't learned anything in being a mom for 23 years, I've learned that my ideal, it doesn't matter. I mean, I can't live their life for them. And so what I want for you is one thing, and what you want for yourself is what you shall have. But I do think that in some regard, that is their ideal. At least I can speak for my oldest daughter. But her reality has been that the guys that she has dated who look like her dad, or her father, are, you know, they haven't been the best relationships. Right now, she's dating someone who is Hispanic, Mexican,
Spanish,
and Spanish.
Yeah.
And she's having an amazing experience, right? Where they go on dates all the time. She's being courted. He treats her like a queen. You know, I don't want to speak for her because she's an adult, but I do know that her ideal would be a Black man. She just hasn't had great experiences there. I know that when I have conversations with the boys, they articulate that, well, there's only 6 in the school. These two aren't allowed outside. And those 2 have boyfriends.
Oh, wow.
Right. And I'm like, what? You know, so it's like there's a little bit of a struggle there as well. I will say, and I've said this on several platforms and to people, is that we have to stop coaching our daughters to not date athletes. There is this idea, particularly in the Black community, that, you know, you tell your girl, don't date him, he plays football. Don't date him, he plays basketball. He's going to cheat. He's going to do this. He's a playboy. He's whatever, right? But then at the same time, we have a strong discussion in the Black community about why these players are married to women outside of their race, which by statistic isn't even true, that most of them are married to Black women.
Right.
Statistically, but the narrative is that they're not. And the ones who aren't is fine. They can love who they love and marry who they marry. But also, we can't coach them from don't date our own kind who happen to be athletically talented, and then at the same time say they don't want us. Yeah. I'm not saying we got to coach them into it either. That's ridiculous. But there has to be a balance somewhere. And so I talk to my kids about the same thing, and especially with the Black girls. I tell them, are there Black girls on campus? Like I'm always asking, are there Black girls on campus? What's their names? Where are they? I want to meet them. And they're like, but I ask because it's important. I know the struggle. I'm not, even though I've been married my whole adult life, I'm not blind to the struggle that Black women have in terms of finding a suitable mate. And I'm not blind to the struggle that we have as a community of, increasing our birth rate, right? And cohabitating and marrying
the nuclear family, the Black nuclear family. I will say this: my main concern has always been to default to somebody outside of your race because you have a negative occurrence of somebody within the diaspora. So once I clear that, I'm good. And both of my boys and our oldest daughter love them some them. They love their people. They don't have anything going on about color or attitudinal nuances within the community. Like, that's not the reason why they're in the situations that they're in. They're in the situations that they're in because the pickings are slim. It's slim pickings. and they like who they like. So
I'm still hopeful though, sis. I'm still hopeful.
Yeah, we got
time. We got time. So we'll see.
So let me ask. It's very evident that you all are really good friends. That is very, very clear. But let's get, how do you keep it spicy? How do you keep it spicy after 20 plus years?
I'm gonna let her answer that because I'm just as spicy as I was at 18.
Okay, Courtney, let's hear you.
And I'm hoping Courtney goes there in this this is a great question because I think this is fantastic for people in long-term relationships or people who are getting in relationship after the age of 35 or 40. This is important. This is an important segment of this talk. As a man, and Courtney, you was talking to one of our clients about this the other day during our coaching call. They're like, my attraction to her is it's unfuckwithable. Right? It's just there. Like, I don't care if she's whatever weight she's at. I don't care if her hair is done, if her nails are done, if her feet are done. Like, I always want her, right? I don't care if I'm overweight, 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 50 pounds. I don't care if my bank account is overdrawn. I don't care if if I need my teeth cleaned. I don't care if my beard is lined up. I'm ready to go, right? I'm always going to want her. That is not the case for women. That is not the case. It took me a while to like, yo, she's telling me, baby, it's not you, it's this, it's postpartum, it's this, all these things over the years. I'm like, I'm ready to
postpartum. Stop. That's a term you heard somebody else say. Postpartum is a thing. I've never had.
You didn't say that after a month?
Thank God, I've not been.
You said there was some postpartum symptoms. There was the medicine and this.
You determined that I was postpartum. He was a doctor too. I was not. I just said I'm not feeling like myself. I had just had a baby, right? So I don't want to misuse the term postpartum because that's a real thing, and I never experienced.
I could have sworn you used that word. You taught me that.
Stop.
So
anyway,
I'm gonna pause and give it to Courtney because I think it's important to understand that there's differences between men and women. Number one. Number two, that is whenever that difference begins to set in, because you start off all hot and heavy at the beginning, like. I mean, it's like rabbits. Then you have kids, and it slows down, and then they have postpartum symptoms.
Oh, Lord.
I'm gonna say symptoms.
So you keep saying postpartum.
I'm just saying it slows down.
So,
we think it's us.
But that's a good point. For some women, they do experience postpartum. That's a real thing. I had postpartum, but definitely after the kids, after each child, I kind of felt not like myself. Of course, I had just had a baby, so your body changes and all of those things. But I would take I'll start with this. Some things we do to keep it spicy. We've always been really good at getting away from kids. That's been like our thing. And when they were younger, it was more like twice, 3 times a year, or something like that. We would fly a parent in. And even if we had to do a staycation, we would get a hotel and just spend the weekend and bike ride and go to dinners and things like that. Things to sort of reconnect without the kids. And we pretty much kept hold of that. We still try to grab a couple romantic vacations and things like that. And I usually plan them. So I try to add as much romance into them as I can because I'm a hopeless romantic. So for me, that's like super important. Like if I don't get romance, then I don't want the spice without the romance. So I try to make sure that I put that in, right? Because I know that that's part of what I'm going to need to get there. But I will say there's definitely been like some ups and downs to how you feel. Like for me, I can't speak for all women. I'll say that this is generally true for women. That when we're just not feeling ourselves, it's like, I don't really care if you might be feeling me, but if I'm not feeling me, we're not gonna have the best experience, right? And so just the idea of making sure that your self-care, that's kind of a buzzword, but it's true, your self-care is really up there so that you feel great about yourself, being able to go to the gym, being able to eat healthy, being able to take a mental time out when you need one, right? All of those things help me to keep it spicy because I'm not spicy as self when I've taken really great care of myself. And I might be a little excessive. I need a little more in the self-care department than maybe some other people. Like I want the massage, I want the workout, I want the food, I want to feel good, I want 8 hours of sleep. I want all of those things. So where we have struggled when things weren't spicy has been in those times where I'm just like, I don't feel good. Like I don't feel great. I do not want you to wake me up at 3:30 in the morning when I have to be up at 6 and I just went to bed at 2. I
hear that.
They say I got a spicy gift for you. Like, no, nothing that good. That's, so in those ways, but in the spirit of how you keep it spicy, yeah, I think for us it's been the vacations, the personal time, the staycations, the date nights are huge. Date nights were always huge for us. Just making sure you have time to reconnect so that emotionally, I'm not an extremely sexual person without the emotional connection. I have to have the emotional connection. So if you're not talking to me and we're
touching,
not
caressing, first thing in the day, like
like we have to actively be spiritually connected for me to get there. So that's what helps a lot. That's my spicy. This guy's always spicy.
And let me explain. I'm spicy, but it's because of everything that she just said. Like I am what they call a demisexual, right? So I'm not like sexual. I see something that's aesthetically pleasing, all of a sudden I have a sexual. My brain doesn't operate that way. But if I care for you and I care about you and the love, is the feelings, there has to be a deep emotional connection. And because I've never experienced as deep as an emotional connection as I have with my wife in perpetuity, I naturally want to express how I feel through the language of intercourse. All the time.
So like if I didn't get a pedicure like and it's going on the third week, I'm like, don't touch my feet, I gotta get a pedicure. He's like, there's nothing wrong with your feet, I love them. I'm like, you just like anything, right?
There's some standards for Pete's sake.
I'm like, that hair's a mess. He's like, it look good to me. I'm like, I tell him all the time, I'm like, if I wasn't with you, you just date anybody.
It's not true. It seems like that, but it's not true. It's not true.
So we're about to round up. It's an hour and over an hour and a half. But I do want to touch on finances. I think, Fire, you alluded to it earlier. It's at the crux of separating people and their marriages and things like that.
Yeah.
What say you? What do you have to share?
Yeah,
Where finances is concerned. I know you did a very, very powerful episode last week with the Four Elements United. And for those who are watching, if you're not tuned in to Four Elements United, get your life together. Take a tip from the please. And the link is in the comment section. Please, please, please. Last week was a very interesting, truly, hats off to you, Fire. Last week was really, really powerful to watch. Very vulnerable side, and you guys discussed finances and things like that. And it's going to continue next week. So all the persons watching, please plug in next week, Wednesday.
Yeah,
but if you both could share how you handle your finances so that it doesn't become a rift.
Yeah. So again, like Courtney mentioned earlier, we got together so young. We got together with neither one of us had anything, right? So we have a foundation where we always shared. We always had full transparency into one another's bank accounts. We always had a shared bank account. So people, different strokes for different folks. We're just telling you all what we do and what works for us,
right?
And so, I have two checking accounts. She has her checking account. You have two checking accounts actually.
Do I? I have one.
You have one for them?
Oh yeah, I just did that for the house thing.
Well, you still technically you got two. So I know what you got. You got name. You got Bank of America. Then we got
all in my business.
Then we got. And then we have the joint household. So we both got two personal checkings plus a joint checking and savings account, brokerage account, right? That joint account is where we get paid. We finance the operating expense account every time we get paid. This is where it gets detailed. We found, just knowing her, I would say Courtney is probably in her ideal state, somebody who would earn income via business and or working income. And ideally, she's comfortable being a modern woman and feminist and not paying any bills. She's comfortable if that was her reality.
She asked you to speak.
I'm getting there. For me, ideally, I'm naturally wired to be the sole provider and breadwinner. And that was our reality until we moved here. For a long time. Like we live in California, and then we live in Calabasas. And so this is what we decided that works for us. We call it pay how you weigh. So
We're still not sure if it works for us.
it worked for me.
It's working. I don't know if I like it.
Yeah, she don't like it. I said, look, we can move to Atlanta or Texas tomorrow. We can get back to your ideal. But since we, to Courtney's point, like so if I make 80% of the net income, then I pay 80% of the operating expenses. She pays the other 20% because that's the percentage of her total contribution to the household. So that's the pay how you weigh model. It gives her some accountability so that she just can't go blow her money any old kind of way.
I would never blow my money.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to find out. So like I said,
the more money I make, the more I'm paying Uncle Sam, and he's Uncle Sam.
So what happens is she'll pay her 20%, and she wants to live this opulent lifestyle, and she'll realize she only has a couple dollars for herself, and then she has to go ask Daddy for some money, and she doesn't like it. See, she don't like it.
I don't. Let me tell you what happened. We didn't have to pay how you weigh. So I would say when it comes to finances, you really have to be changeable.
Yeah,
right?
Be malleable.
Yeah, because we've done it all.
Yeah,
we've survived off of 2 Pell Grant refunds. Like literally, I get a Pell Grant refund. He was on scholarship and still got a Pell Grant refund.
Stretch it.
And we made that work and lived off of that, right? And then obviously NFL income when he was traveling. I was not working then. I was home with kids that were little. We had full transparency there. So any credit cards that he got or I got, we were the authorized user on the other card. We both had a card. We both had an online account. We could view it, and we shared a bank account. Then when we went more into corporate, when I was a stay-at-home mom for some years, I had a business on the side. I had a business bank account that was there. We had the house account that was fully transparent. We both could see everything. We both had a card. In terms of communication, if it was like little stuff, like I'm gonna go to Target, I'm gonna go grocery shopping, I'm gonna go to Whole Foods, things like that, that wasn't really discussed as much. It was a budget for groceries and it happened. If we were going to buy a living room set, right, or take a trip or pay for something that was a bigger expense, then we would have a conversation about it before it got charged. Mm-hmm. And then really just since we moved here, and
it's been 4 years. Longer than we've ever lived anywhere else before, except for home.
Yeah, and I have a pretty sizable income now. He tries to, he became Uncle Sam. So he's like, let's do the pay how you weigh. I'm like, what is that? What is pay how you weigh? Say more about that. So the pay how you weigh, he's like, I'm going to pay this percentage, you're going to pay that percentage. And I'm looking through it, I'm like, I really don't love this. But we, it's still the same thing. We have access to the account. We both can see everything. I can fully see his account. He does not have access to my personal account because he said he doesn't want it. He could have it if he wanted to. But that's his macho. He doesn't want it. And I was like, okay, if you don't want to see it, fine. But he could if he wanted to. So that just works for us. I know that for some couples, that's not ideal that you have full transparency and everything. But for us, it works because I think it's all we know too. So it would be very strange for me to be like, I don't know how much money we have collected, or I don't know what we invested in, or I don't know what we own. Like that would be very uncomfortable. Actually, that I'm gonna just be honest, that would not work for me.
That would not work for this one
because I don't know anything else, and so that would feel like we're hiding something, right? And we're a unit. I can't raise a family and not know exactly where we stand financially. So the full transparency model works 100%.
Got you. So there's a question coming in from Shondell. Shondell, she asks, how do you deal with arguments or disagreement? Not sure if this was discussed. Is it a stay in one room, sleeping on the couch, or sleeping at a motel? Your thoughts on that? They did touch on it, but just quickly, if you could reiterate.
I'll just quickly reiterate. We haven't had a ton of disagreements or arguments. We don't argue often at all. But when we do have a disagreement, we talk about it. Even if talking about it means I'm not ready to talk about it, we at least communicate that. I'm not ready to talk about it, but let's do it tomorrow, or give me a couple days, or whatever. We don't sleep on the couch. In 20 years, nobody has slept on a couch ever. Nobody has ever went to a motel. And I'm not a fan of leaving. And so no matter how mad I am, I'm not leaving my household because I'm mad at my partner, right? Now we can have space if we need it, but even now we communicate it. So no.
Yeah.
No.
I don't even recall storming out of either of us ever storming out of the house in a fit of rage because of argument. It's not something we experience.
Gotcha. Wow. Any other questions in the comment section? I want to make sure I get as much as I can. Let's see. Quick. Oh, well, there was another. Okay. So.
Oh, I see.
What is your take? Well, what would you like to leave with people? As I said, sometimes people ask me, so how come you end up doing relationships and things like that on royalty? And I have to remind people that wellness is what we do. And if we have dysfunctional relationships, the truth is eating right, using all your herbs, exercising, there's a limitation in terms of your overall wellness altogether. I truly believe that we're intended to relate in healthy ways, and relationships are at the core and the crux of that. And so, if you could be so kind, after all, y'all have mastered this thing for 20 plus years, still going strong, and not just independently. 4 children, that is mad salute. Mad salute. That's a huge accomplishment. And especially given the dynamics of the NFL, Calabasas, California, and all that kind of thing. It's really beautiful. It is truly something that I highly respect. So if you could just drop some gems as takeaways for the persons who are listening in terms of the importance of really fostering that tie, that connection as married couple.
Yeah. So I would say that you never really become, and you never really, I guess you could become a master at some things. Like, wow, I feel like I'm a master communicator, but I also feel like life has a funny way of showing us that we're not the master, even in our relationships too. So the minute you think that you mastered something, the universe is like, really? Right?
Let me test you.
Exactly. And so I would say the thing that I've learned the most is that, you never become, you never master yourself or your relationship, but you're always on a journey too. Yeah. And I think the thing that helps the most is being intentional about being on the journey and just trying to be your best self first, and then trying to show up as your best self inside of your relationship. The other thing I would say is to be true to yourself. Everybody knows what they need in a relationship, right? And oftentimes I think we're in like this generation and time of always looking for somebody to tell us, like, who's the relationship expert, who's the therapist. Not that these things are not relevant, because they are, but you have to go internal. You know when something is working or not working in your relationship, and you don't need a friend, a therapist, or anybody to tell you that. You just look for people to validate that for you. And so outside of validation, you have to validate yourself. And when you feel that something is not right or you're not in the right relationship, get out of it, right? Or at least start doing the work to try to change together, if that's a positive. And if you are in a great relationship and something works for you, and then you see someone doing something different that works for them, that's okay too. You can still keep doing what works for you. You're not required to change and do everything that you see, working for other people. So I would just say, I don't know that I really believe that I'll ever be in a place to, per se, give somebody advice. My advice is always trust yourself. Trust who you choose as your partner. You can't even trust a partner until you learn to trust yourself and your own intuition and stand up for what you deserve.
Drop it, sis.
So that would be it for me. That's what I would say would be my relationship advice.
Well done.
Thanks.
I'll try to take another cut, or a different cut, just from my perspective. Something that I feel like people need to hear in this moment is, you talk about, you specifically, sis, have built a bridge between wellness and relationships on this show and with your platform as a whole. I think it's important to understand that a relationship, a life partnership should be accretive, meaning that I should be better off with you than I am without you.
Mhm.
And for me, that's one of the drivers to like, because once the kids will be gone in a couple of years. Then what do we have if it's based on the kids? I genuinely believe, like I know, I don't even believe this. I know that I'm the better version of myself because I'm with this woman. I know that my experience of life or my life experiences over the last 21 years are better as a result of me being with her than they would have been without her or with someone else. And so there's so many people in relationships, and you hear this saying all the time, I can do bad by myself. There's so many people in relationships doing bad in a relationship. That makes no sense to me, to my Virgoic mind, as to why you would stay in something that is actually a pull on your energy, a pull on your creative and your full self-expression, a pull away from your God-given purpose. Like your ancestors got you, you're here for a reason. You're the fulfillment of something, and this relationship is pulling you away from you administering your medicine to the world because the thing is good. The thing is good. No. No.
And you mean in perpetuity.
In perpetuity.
Because there's definitely times in a relationship where you do bad together.
Yes.
You know, that's part of it. You do good together, you do bad together. You have ebbs and flows. But when it's perpetually bad,
right,
is a time for self-reflection,
right,
and to determine what's positive.
That's right.
I know that's what you do.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. Like if I'm pulling us into the trough, like versus life happening, like some things happen that it's not a result or an impact of something that you did or didn't do. It's just an accident, an act of God, whatever you want to call it. Something happens. Something happens to one of your kids. You didn't ask for that, right? Now you have to pull. You gotta like really tighten up together and get through those tough times. And so I'm talking about those self-induced.
Yeah.
You know, like I pulled us into the freaking trough, into the valley yet again and again and again. It's like, bro, like I don't need. If I just cut you loose, I can fly. If I just got rid of you, my life would instantaneously get better. That like I've never had that experience, and I continue to be and continue to grow and continue to expand as an individual because I always want to add value to this lady. Like I always want to add value to her. I always want to add value to our children. I always want to add value to our unit, our nuclear family.
Oh, can I add one more thing?
Yes, please.
I would also say belief. That's like so huge right now. I think a lot of, in my experience, I don't want to say a lot of, in my experience, there's been a lot of conversations that I've had where what's lacking around relationships, and this is more for single people, is belief. Believe that your person is out there and that your person exists and that there's somebody for you. So I would just say, like, there's somebody for everybody. Don't get caught up on these conversations of there's only this many men on earth and there's this many women and this person is black and this person is poor and that person's in jail. Like that is crazy stuff. Like I get that everything does come down to numerical equations, but at the same time, you just have to believe. You have to believe that everything that you want is possible. You can't exclude relationships from that part of your belief system, right? So have faith, trust yourself, and believe that there is somebody there for you. And stay away from negative conversations around there not being enough and lack. And surround yourself with people who are in love and who do have things that look like what you want. Nobody's gonna have the same relationship as you want. And it's not meant to be that way. It's not meant to look at somebody else's relationship. You can have admiration, but it's not meant to say that is what I want. I want somebody like him or like her. You want somebody that's for you. Mm-hmm. And when you start saying I want somebody like him or like her, you don't know what you're calling into your life because you don't know that person. Mm-hmm. Right? You only know the perception of what you heard about that person. You can say I want somebody like her, and she could be totally crazy outside of what you
exactly.
Right. And same thing, for men. So it's like start speaking positivity into your life and be intentional with your words. I want somebody for me. I want the person that God designed for me. I believe that person is already on this earth and is looking for the same things I'm looking for, and I'm going to find that person. And then surround yourself with people who have something that mirrors what you believe is positive so that you constantly have that example instead of surrounding yourself with your other single friends so you can all sit together and toast about what's not available to you. That's not good,
Oh, man. I just got something else. Last thing, and I promise. Are you finished?
I'm done.
I don't want to interrupt you, you know what I mean? Gotta start warming you up for the night, like right now. You know what I'm saying? Um, I think it just hit me as an adult. Like if I was single in this world right now, at this moment in time, there's no way that I would even date somebody. Well, I would date to get to know and learn people, but once I decided we were going to go to the next level, you got to know who I am and why I'm here. You have to. Like for me, it's not about aesthetic. It's not about companionship. It's not about conversation. For me, if I'm single, it's about a suitable help me. Help me what? Like help me do what? Help me be who in the world? Well, who I was called to be. Because if you're not partnering up and getting in this soul tie with somebody who is going to help cause your full self-expression to manifest itself, and you administer the medicine that you are to as many people as humanly possible, and to be with somebody who doesn't get that, doesn't really know who you are. They're in love with this exterior aesthetic. They're in love with these features and benefits, whether it's financial literacy and security, whether it's ambition, all these things that aren't spiritual, all physical, all human faculties, and you go after that, it's going to pull you so far off of your purpose. And for me, what I know, a life outside of purpose is a life wasted.
Woo.
So
You
like,
better say it.
you
better
got,
say it.
you
I
got,
want.
yeah, meet me in my purpose. Then we can go from there.
Got you. I want to bring in Queen Viv's comment. She said, beautiful, open, honest couple. Thank you for being so authentic and vulnerable. I reflected a lot on my relationship with my ex and how I could have done things differently and how I can be better in my current relationship. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Queen. We have to talk. It's been a long time. I miss you guys. And Clarita also said that last point was a very good point as well. Let me ask you guys in closing, empty nesters. What does it look like for the butlers?
Oh man. You know, I got a vision.
Oh my gosh.
I got a vision.
So,
Do tell.
I think it looks like cooking once a week. And that sounds cool.
Yes.
I think it looks like cooking once a week and being able to go to the grocery store and eat off the hot bar at like Iran. Iran's like a local grocery place that I love. The food is amazing.
Think Whole Foods, but like above Whole Foods.
Got you.
Yeah.
It's so good, right? So I would just go to Iran and be like, "What do you want, babe?" And just get 2 meals and bring it home and I have to cook. So like that, more date nights, travel. Prayerfully traveling to the kids' games. You know, when they go to college, we can go to their games and visiting them. And I look forward to even. I don't want them to do this anytime soon, but when they have kids, I'm gonna be like the best grandma ever. Like the best. Like we're going to Disney World in Paris. Like we're my kids are gonna be like, who is this lady? Right? Because you just get better with time and then your resources grow and you can do things that maybe you couldn't do with them. So like I do look forward to that. I hope that that's 10 years plus from now. But I pray that we just have the health to be able to do it. But I look forward to all of that. The time together, the travel, the fun, the everything, but also still being connected to the kids. Like I can't imagine not having that connection with them. I want to be the host, right? So I want my house to be like, bring your wife or your husband and your kids, and everybody comes to mom and dad's house for all holidays. Like your wife don't have to cook. You can go to your husband's house too, right? We could take turns. But I definitely want my house filled with my kids and their kids. For sure. So I don't want the nest to be too empty.
Mm-hmm.
I want them gone and independent, but I want to see them often.
That's such a cute response.
It's the truth.
It is you. It is you. It's you.
Say what you want.
It is very you.
It is very me.
So my conservative
You know
wife.
what he's gonna do.
My conservative wife said everything about but the stuff that really matters. No, everything she said, I'm in agreement with. I can see it, like it's real. but I'm actually looking forward to focusing my affections on her because literally I made her my woman in December of 2001, and she was pregnant. She was pregnant with Amani by February.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Right. So and again, I was a dad from day one, and so we never had a time other than those excursions. We always go on vacation, where it's just her and I. Me personally, I'm looking to taking all that love, all that energy, and giving it to her. And I don't know if you can handle it. I don't know. We're gonna find out.
Right now, I was like, why do you keep inviting all these kids over here?
Yeah. I've been waiting 30 years. We've been waiting 30 years to have this moment. Like, I'm walking around the house naked. I'm doing all like, don't come over here because your granddad's always naked. Granddad's always naked. I don't want to go there. It's a deterrent.
Sounds very old man.
As a deterrent. We are traveling. We are free. We have done the things over the next 10 years to set ourselves up to no longer have to labor and toil for our income. We've invested well enough that our investments are providing the lifestyle for us. And we're creating, we're doing businesses together, we're doing podcasts, we're writing books, we're doing retreats. We're just all up in our gifting and enjoying the shit out of each other every last moment of it. And having
Sounds excellent to me. Wow, I mean, this has been so beautiful. Thank you both so much. Yeah, thank you for all the gems. The takeaways were spectacular. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. I really appreciate you inviting us on your platform. It's been great.
It is truly a pleasure. Truly a pleasure. We will do another round of this. I think there's a different angle we can approach relationship, and I truly think you guys are the perfect ones to do it. You know. So thank you so much for coming on board. As I promised everybody, I knew it would be fire, not because fire's named Fire, but I just knew it was. It has been a true privilege. Thank you so much for coming on board again. Looking forward to seeing you guys in Antigua for real.
No, seriously.
We talked about it briefly during the conversation, and we said maybe the next teammates retreat for 2024, we'll do it in Antigua. Do it in Antigua. We'll put a place to do it.
Yeah, that would be dope. And maybe we could come even before then.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
All right, and Queen says you guys are blessed. Wow, equally yoked.
Oh, thank you.
So blessed.
Thank you.
So blessed. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. Wow, love. It's a beautiful thing, and it's a necessary thing. More now than ever for our community. I mean, like we said, when we peruse the internet, there's this rift that's just so evident, and it seems to be pushing the king and the queen further apart, but in reality,
that's true.
Together.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Without each other. Thank you so much. Peace and blessings to everybody who are watching on live. I'm sorry I didn't get to big up everybody, but you know my heart is with you. But I was enthralled by the beautiful stories that we heard. Have a powerful week, and I'll see you back again next week, Sunday at 6. Peace and blessings. Good night. Peace.